Welcome to Counter-Terrorism Roll Call. I'm Holt Clark. Why am I in my kitchen? I'm here to make a point. Cooking is a process. I have to start with the right pan, I have to put in the right ingredients, and I have to put it in my oven for a right amount of time at the right temperature. Radicalization to the point of committing an act of terrorism is also a process. I have to start with the right container or person. I have to put in the right ingredients like propaganda and hate. And I have to have it in the right environment for the right amount of time. It doesn't matter if it's left-wing, right-wing, or theologically based. Radicalization has a recipe, and I'm going to share it with you. Grab a seat. It's time for Counter-Terrorism Roll Call. When talking about counterterrorism, we have to be careful to define our terms. It's essential we understand what we're speaking about. So when we talk about radicalization, we have to look at the word radical. And a radical is a person who advocates thorough or complete political or social change. This doesn't interest us in the field of counterterrorism. Let's look at radicalization. That's the process of causing someone to adopt a radical position on a political or social issue. Again, it's still a pretty benign term. This next definition is the process of adopting an extremist belief system, including the willingness to use, support, or facilitate violence as a method to effect social change. This is what we're talking about. In both of the definitions, we have a process, and it's an outside influence causing someone to do something. But the second definition incorporates the violence, which is where we come in. Two other points I want to make about this. Number one is, when we're talking about this being an outside influence, it takes the term self-radicalization and makes it an oxymoron. You can't self-radicalize if you're being influenced from the outside. The second thing is, we're only dealing with the violent applications here. You can be militant without being violent. Otherwise, we'd have to lock up all the nation's CrossFitters. Let's return to the baking analogy, where my container was my person. This is where we're going to put in all our ingredients. Now this can be the hardest part to figure out because I can take two people and put them in identical situations and one's going to go this direction and one's going to go that. But generally we have people who are disaffected or disenfranchised. They feel alone. They're looking to be a part of something that's greater than themselves. They generally have a strong sense of justice, although it probably isn't the same sense of justice that you have. They derive psychological and material benefits from radical associations. They want to hang with those radicals. Keep in mind that individuals who are similar to one another are more likely to form ties. And I like to use the expression that the further you lean, the harder you're pulled. So once you start following those associations, they're going to try and pull you in. Like-minded people seek each other out. What are the ingredients or the influences that go into our container? These are things to help to formalize that hate they already have, the grievance they feel from some other group, the networks that they're associated with, or those ideologies that are drawing them in. They provide a sense of home or belonging that they're otherwise missing. There's a cause that's greater than themselves, and there's incentive to sacrifice by promising some heroic redemption. And they're taught to demonize their enemies to justify the violence against them. There's also usually a supremacist element to the violent ideologies. My side is right and your side is evil. Therefore, it excuses the violence. This is usually inherent in at least an embryonic sense in the person when they start out, but it's grown and matured through work with these groups. Think of radical Islam and white supremacists. God has appointed them the keepers of the earth. The radical left, the socialists, the Antifa, they're intellectually superior to everyone else, and therefore they need to take care of your needs as you can't care for yourself. And the far right, they're the defenders of the Constitution. Everybody else is a traitor. Now let's take a look at the oven. This is the environment where our radicalization is baked. This is where all those thoughts and ideas get formed and the true violent radicalization is triggered. Now, this can take place in a traditional format of an in-person radicalization. That happens in prisons. You can be raised in a religious sect. You can join a militia and spend your time out in the wilderness with like-minded people. Now, it can be a gradual process where our oven is set low and we cook long, low, and slow. In this gradual process, this entails socialization into the extremist belief system that sets the stage for violence a little bit at a time. You can go high and hot with a full immersion, just full-on radicalization on a regular basis for a period of time until there's full acceptance. And there's grooming. With grooming, you start with a person who's like-minded and predisposed to believe as you believe, and you say, well, if you believe A and B, then you have to believe C and D. So the further they lean, the stronger you pull. That brings someone from a bigot to a white supremacist. It takes someone from a bleeding heart liberal to an Antifa terrorist. Now, the web plays a huge role in this. Radicalization can go everywhere from completely offline to completely online. We've seen people fully radicalized online, where they've never had face-to-face contact with anyone else from the ideological organization. The global jihad has been very effective at online recruitment. They let the search engines work for them. As these individuals are searching for their purpose, they're letting this weed out those who are weaker or not fit for the jobs that they want. Why do they do this? Well, it can be exciting. You get online and you start reading these online magazines, and I know something you don't know. Even though it can be sickening, unreal, or it soon overloads you or normalizes you. You can only see so many beheading videos before it no longer has that effect. And it pulls you in. You become involved. To read the propaganda of the globalist jihad, you have to do a lot of interpreting of Arabic words. And then there are certain obscure references, and you have to figure out what those mean. And it kind of leads you into something else, which leads you into something else. You become fully immersed in this world. Inside this oven, there's a lack of outside influences. There's no balance. If you're not a historian or well-versed in Islam, you don't have any other thing coming and whispering in your ear. There's no reference point. It's all ISIS all the time, all Al-Qaeda all the time. You don't hear what anyone else has to say. What comes out of the radicalization oven, as I said, depends on the container, the ingredients, and how the oven is set. Let me give you 3 examples. The first is a U.S. soldier. He's our container. What goes in is disappointment in his career, disillusionment in his government over things like Ruby Ridge, and lots of militia propaganda. It sits in an oven outside a Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. And what comes out is Tim McVeigh. Our next container is a boy born in 1986 in New York. He's born to Afghan immigrant parents. They shortly after moved to Florida, and the ingredients include a preoccupation with violence from an early age. But he also receives an associate's degree in criminal justice. But his oven includes a father who believes he's the true president of Afghanistan and a Taliban supporter. And he watches lots of extremist videos and beheading videos online. And at the very end, he claims to be an ISIS supporter right before he slaughters 49 innocent people at the Pulse nightclub. Our last example is a 69-year-old man who's a business owner in Illinois. He's a Bernie Sanders supporter who hates conservatives. He probably didn't start out that way. He started out as a progressive liberal, but he spent lots of time online and social media in that echo chamber of how terrible Trump is, that he stole the election, that he's going to destroy this country, if not this world. And it takes people with guts, people who will stand up and try and save the country. And this man took a rifle and shot a congressman, 2 Capitol Police officers, and several congressional aides. It's important that you recognize the steps involved in this process. It gives you a possibility to interdict and disrupt this process. When I was in Israel last year studying, we had several Israeli police officers and Israeli Defense Force commanders as instructors. And they have an extensive experience with terrorism, and they've developed a working profile on these young jihadists. And what do when they see somebody's in process? They go and tell their mom. They found that to be effective a majority of the time. So remember, counterterrorism is not all SWAT teams and door kicking. It's often the alert, educated police officer who makes the difference. Let's make sure that person is you. I'll see you next time on Counterterrorism Roll Call. Until then, be alert and be safe. Thanks for watching. Please visit our sponsor, patriotthreads.org, and stay tuned for a special offer from them. Would you do me a favor and hit the like button? And if you haven't yet, subscribe. If you want to know more about me, go to my website, follow me on Twitter, or just run me on NCIC. I'll see you next week on Counterterrorism Roll Call. Until then, be alert, be safe. PatriotThreads.org is apparel with a purpose. Patriot Threads offers state-themed, game day to outdoor lifestyle apparel, like the new line of Southern Trout shirts, and introducing the new Back the Blue shirts. All are 100% printed in the USA. Are you looking for a new, exciting, profitable fundraiser? PatriotThreads.org would love to help. Go to their website for details. Use promo code ROLLCALL at checkout and you can save 20% on the sale. And Patriot Threads will donate 20% of the profits to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. PatriotThreads.org is a proud sponsor of the men and women of law enforcement.